Well, only on Newswatch 12, the 4 dams along the Klamath River are scheduled to be removed by 2024, and construction is set to begin as soon as next year. Maybe that's deconstruction. Newswatch 12's McKenna Marks explains the environmental impacts the dams have had on the river and the surrounding communities.
The Federal Energy Regulatory Commission gave its green light to remove all 4 dams along the Klamath River, which means communities surrounding the river as well as the river itself are due for some historic changes.
It's kind of like arteries. If you block an artery, you're going to have so many different problems throughout the entire body.
In this metaphor, the Klamath River is the artery and the dams are the blocks, stopping the ecosystem from thriving. Salmon used to flourish in the Klamath River, serving as both a physical and cultural lifeline to native tribes. But now the water is too warm and the river has turned toxic.
A lot of times in the fall when ceremonies are set to begin, there's actually warnings not to touch the water because of the massive blooms of toxic algae that happens behind these dams.
The river isn't the only thing that won't survive without the salmon. Native tribes will be left suffering too.
If our fish are gone, if our access to traditional foods are gone, then our social fabric is kind of getting ripped apart. And when that happens, then that's when you kind of start losing faith in who we are as Native people.
In addition to Native tribes, fishermen are also among those who have been advocating for dam removal. Because the salmon population in the Klamath River has been so low, in numbers and in quality, fishermen say it's been negatively impacting business for years.
It's because there was possibility of catching one very, very weak stock Klamath fish. We had to forego 20, 30, 40, 50 other fish from other rivers that were quite abundant. So we were shut down. And that drew our attention immediately to the Klamath in the early 80s.
Spain is also a board member of the Klamath River Renewal Corporation, who is in charge of the dam removal process. He says when the first dam, Kopko 1, was built in 1918, none of the issues we're seeing right now were even a slight concern.
And the fish were never a consideration. Water issues were never a consideration. Tribal fishing rights were never a consideration back in 1918 when the first of these dams was built. Nobody cared about the environment. The word environmentalist hadn't even been invented.
But now, more than 100 years after the first dam was built, the river and the plants and animals that live in and around it have finally become a priority. Regina Chicazola, the executive director of Save California Salmon, says we've seen major environmental success from dam removal before in the Elwha River in Washington State.
Watching what happened there was amazing because not only did it make it so the salmon returned, it also made it so that the estuary became much more productive. So now they're looking at more oysters, more mussels, more clams, because it created all new habitats that people didn't even expect.
However, it's important to note, removing 4 dams doesn't come without some short-term negative impacts. For example, a considerable amount of sediment will be released into the river once the dams are gone. But Chicazola says in this case, the positives greatly outweigh the negatives.
Any massive engineering project that happens in a river can have short-term impacts, but in the long term, we won't no longer have to deal with massive fish diseases, regular fish kills, and the river being toxic every year.
From holding rallies to meeting with lawmakers, the fight for dam removal and river restoration has gone on for nearly 2 decades. While the native tribes of the Klamath Basin served as the leaders of this movement, it would not have been successful without the help of other groups.
It took a big coalition of allies. So it wasn't just the Karuk tribe, but the Yurok tribe downstream, the Klamath tribes upstream, conservation groups, salmon fishermen. It really took a diverse coalition of folks working together to make this happen.
Construction is set to begin in 2023, and the dams are scheduled to be removed by 2024. But for now, it's cause for celebration.
People are elated, and we're really excited to welcome these salmon back home.
Reporting in Siskiyou County, McKenna Marks, Newswatch 12.